Everyone loves the idea of a moral leader, until the world starts burning. When war breaks out, when corruption spreads like a virus, when an economy collapses and people are desperate for direction, something dark happens. All the soft speeches, inspirational quotes, and good intentions suddenly mean nothing. In real crises, the crowd doesn't look for saints. They look for someone who can actually hold the line. Someone who understands power, human nature, and the brutal math of survival. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the most ethical decision a leader can make is the one that looks the least moral. Machiavelli understood this. He believed that leaders who cling to comforting ideals often create more suffering than those who dare to make hard, unpopular, necessary choices. So the question becomes, was Machiavelli immoral? Or was he the only one brave enough to describe reality as it truly is? Ethical leadership is often dressed in soft language: honesty, kindness, humility, and compassion. Beautiful ideas, yes, but history exposes a brutal contradiction. Some of the most celebrated leaders were not the gentlest. They were the ones who made the decisions others were too afraid to touch. They protected nations using strategies that polite society would label unethical. Yet without those choices, their people would have drowned in chaos. If you're new here on Stoic Strategist, welcome. This is where we remove the mask from power and confront the truth beneath it. And to those returning, thank you for coming back. Your mind is sharpening. Machiavelli didn't reject ethics. He rejected hypocrisy. He believed ethics should be measured not by how noble a leader sounds, but by whether their actions create stability, peace, prosperity, and protection. To Machiavelli, mercy is not always moral. Justice is not always gentle, and sometimes the leader must switch between the lion and the fox to prevent disaster. Before we go deeper, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss upcoming content from this channel. And do not skip any part of this video. Every insight builds on the next. I'll remind you of this again later. Most people talk about moral leadership the way children talk about fairy tales, soft, comforting, and disconnected from reality. But Machiavelli forces us to confront something far darker. A leader who relies only on traditional morality will not survive the real world. Why? Because the world is not fair, predictable, or gentle. It is shaped by threats, ambitions, rivalries, and the constant pressure of human weakness. Nations do not collapse because leaders are too intelligent. They collapse because leaders cling to idealism when reality demands force, strategy, or deception. Ethical leadership, in Machiavelli's eyes, begins with a harsh truth. If the leader falls, everyone who depends on him falls with him. And that brings us to the core of Machiavelli's worldview. Necessity has no law. A leader cannot afford the luxury of purity when the survival of the state is on the line. If a nation is threatened by invasion, internal corruption, treason, or economic ruin, the leader's duty is not to look virtuous. It is to act decisively. Traditional morality may demand forgiveness, patience, or gentle solutions, but necessity demands effectiveness. A leader who hesitates because he wants to look good is not moral. He is dangerous. His weakness becomes a weapon in the hands of his enemies. To understand Machiavelli, you must understand human nature. People praise kindness only when they feel safe. The moment danger appears, they beg for strength. They want the leader to be merciful in times of peace and merciless in times of crisis. Machiavelli saw that human beings are inconsistent, emotional, and easily manipulated by appearances. Threats often come disguised as allies. Enemies smile before they strike. Deception, ambition, betrayal, these are the laws of the political world. And a leader who refuses to recognize this is not ethical, he is naive. History is filled with examples where soft ethics caused ruin. Empires fell because rulers trusted too easily. Nations were invaded because leaders waited too long to act. Revolutions erupted because leaders avoided necessary severity. Time and time again, leaders who wanted to be loved ended up destroying the very people they were trying to protect. Machiavelli believed that a leader who protects the state, even through unpleasant means, is more ethical than the leader who clings to moral purity while the world burns. Survival is not selfishness, it is responsibility. This is why Machiavelli claimed that the first duty of any leader is not to appear good, but to preserve the state. If the leader fails, the people suffer. Order collapses, corruption spreads, foreign enemies take advantage. Ethical leadership begins with one brutal principle: protect the people at all costs, even from their own illusions. And sometimes that means doing what morality textbooks condemn, but history rewards. So here's the question Machiavelli throws at you. In a collapsing world, do you want a leader who looks moral, or a leader who keeps you alive? When people hear the word virtue, they imagine kindness, gentleness, humility, and moral purity. But Machiavelli ripped that definition apart. To him, virtue was not about being nice, it was about being effective. Competence, courage, intelligence, adaptability, and discipline, these were the real virtues of leadership. Because in a world shaped by power, deception, and chaos, the leader's morality means nothing if he cannot achieve results. Machiavelli believed that a leader who acts with compassion but fails to protect the people is not virtuous, he is disastrous. Virtue is the combination of strength and wisdom that allows a leader to shape fate rather than be destroyed by it. And here is the brutal reality. Weakness is the most dangerous form of immorality. A weak leader endangers millions of lives. His indecision creates power vacuums. His desire to be liked makes him manipulable. His fear of conflict emboldens enemies. His emotional fragility becomes a national liability. Machiavelli saw weakness not as a personal flaw, but as a moral failure, because the consequences of weakness are always paid by innocent people. A nice leader who collapses under pressure is not good. He is irresponsible. A leader with virtue stands firm even when the world demands he bow. According to Machiavelli, the leader who cannot protect the state is ethically bankrupt, no matter how noble his intentions. Leadership is not a spiritual retreat. It is not a performance for applause. It is a battlefield of competing interests, hidden threats, and shifting alliances. The leader must be a shield, not a pillow. A protector, not a pleaser. If he cannot guard the people from danger, corruption, invasion, or collapse, his kindness becomes irrelevant. Machiavelli believed that true moral responsibility is measured by outcomes, not appearances. A failed protector is a failed leader, no matter how pure his heart. Virtue also includes psychological strength, the ability to master fear, pressure, and crisis. Every leader will face moments where everything unravels. Advisors betray, allies defect, enemies advance, and the public panics. In these moments, the leader's mind becomes the battlefield. Machiavelli respected the leader who could think clearly inside chaos, remain calm under attack, and make decisions others would be too terrified to consider. He believed that courage begins in the mind, and the refusal to let fear dictate action. Only a leader with psychological fortitude can navigate the storms that break ordinary men. At its core, Machiavelli's concept of virtue asks a simple but brutal question. Are you strong enough to carry the weight of leadership without collapsing? Or will your emotional fragility become the reason others suffer? Machiavelli understood something most people still refuse to accept. Cruelty is not always evil, but enjoying cruelty always is. This is the moral distinction he carved with surgical precision. A leader who inflicts pain because it is necessary to preserve order, prevent greater violence, or stop a looming catastrophe is acting from responsibility, not sadism. But a leader who harms others to satisfy ego, revenge, insecurity, or personal desire is a monster. Machiavelli wasn't defending brutality, he was defining its ethical boundaries. He believed that controlled severity, used in the right moment, could save a nation. But uncontrolled cruelty, driven by emotion, could destroy it just as quickly. Here is the paradox that polite society avoids. Occasional harsh decisions can prevent far greater harm. One firm punishment may prevent a civil war. One decisive removal of a corrupt official may stop a chain reaction of injustice. One public act of strength may deter enemies from attacking. Mercy applied at the wrong time is not compassion. It is negligence wearing a halo. Leaders who refuse to take tough actions because they want to be loved often create the very suffering they tried to avoid. Machiavelli believed this deeply. Sometimes the kindest outcome requires the harshest moment. And what happens when leaders avoid tough choices? Disaster. They allow corruption to spread. They allow enemies to grow bold. They allow chaos to take root in the silence of their hesitation. History is full of leaders who waited too long, compromised too much, forgave the unforgivable, and allowed small flames to grow into wildfires. They thought that doing nothing would maintain peace. But doing nothing is also a decision, and often the most destructive one. Machiavelli saw that a leader who avoids conflict will eventually face a conflict 10 times worse. Weakness delays the pain but magnifies the consequences. This is where Machiavelli introduces the ethical purpose behind controlled severity. Cruelty is a tool, dangerous, powerful, and meant to be used sparingly. A single decisive act can stabilize a nation. A short, sharp shock can prevent years of suffering. But cruelty must be strategic, not emotional. It must be measured, not reckless. It must aim to restore order, not escalate violence. It must serve the public good, not the leader's pride. In this sense, necessary cruelty becomes a form of moral surgery, painful but life-saving. Controlled severity is responsibility, uncontrolled severity is tyranny. Machiavelli forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth about leadership. Doing what is right is rarely the same as doing what feels good. The question he leaves us with is simple but brutal. When the survival of many depends on one painful decision, would you have the stomach to make it? Before we go deeper, stop and ask yourself a brutal question. Would you rather follow a leader who makes you feel good, or one who actually keeps you safe when everything collapses? History is merciless in its lessons. The leaders who comfort you are rarely the ones who can protect you. And in moments of crisis, the difference becomes painfully clear. Pause for a moment. If this breakdown is opening your eyes to how power really works, make sure you subscribe. This channel exposes the truths polite society is too afraid to touch. Hit the like button, stay with me, and let's finish uncovering Machiavelli's most uncomfortable lessons together. People love to claim they value truth, but Machiavelli understood something darker. Most people judge a leader not by reality, but by perception. The crowd does not see the strategy behind the curtain. They see the performance on the stage. They respond to confidence, symbolism, posture, tone, and emotional cues long before they respond to facts. A competent leader who appears weak will be treated as weak, no matter how capable he is. And an incompetent leader who appears strong will be followed into disaster. Human beings are not rational creatures. They react first, think second, and judge based on the image in front of them. Machiavelli mastered this truth. Leadership is not only about what you do, but also about what people believe you do. This is why Machiavelli laid down one of his coldest rules. It is necessary to appear virtuous. Not to be virtuous, to appear virtuous. Why? Because the masses cannot see into your heart, your strategy, or your intentions. They only see outcomes and optics. A leader who appears cruel loses trust, even if he has acted for the greater good. A leader who appears fair gains loyalty, even if he has used hard methods behind the scenes. Machiavelli wasn't promoting deception for ego. He was highlighting the psychological architecture of power. People follow what they can emotionally interpret, not what they can logically analyze. This creates a brutal balancing act. The leader must maintain moral legitimacy while executing tough strategies. He cannot reveal every necessary cruelty, or he risks losing the very public support needed to govern. He cannot expose every manipulation, or he weakens the authority required to maintain order. A leader must protect the people from the truth that would destabilize them, not because they are stupid, but because they are human. Chaos spreads faster than understanding. Panic outruns logic. Transparency sounds noble, but too much transparency can destroy the public's faith faster than corruption ever could. To survive, a leader must balance compassion and strength, revealing enough softness to inspire loyalty and enough firmness to deter threats. Appear too gentle, and predators will circle. Appear too harsh, and the people will rebel. Machiavelli's ideal leader stands in the psychological center, warm enough to be trusted, strong enough to be feared. This duality is not manipulation, it is emotional intelligence applied at the level of national survival. People need to believe their leader cares, even when he makes decisions that hurt in the short term but save in the long term. Power without compassion becomes tyranny. Compassion without power becomes irrelevance. So Machiavelli leaves us with a cold mirror held to our faces. We claim to want honest leaders, but we reward the ones who perform best. And the uncomfortable question is this: if your safety depended on a leader's image rather than his intentions, which would you choose? The truth or the illusion that keeps your world stable? Machiavelli has been called a monster for centuries, but the insult reveals more about society's fear of truth than about the man himself. His goal was not chaos, corruption, or tyranny. It was protection. He believed the leader's highest duty was the safety and stability of the people, even if the methods required to achieve it were uncomfortable or politically dangerous. The tragedy is that Machiavelli understood something most people still deny. Good intentions do not guarantee good outcomes. A leader who prioritizes image, popularity, or moral applause over actual results becomes a threat to his own nation. Machiavelli's philosophy is harsh, but it is rooted in one idea: leadership exists for the people, not for the leader's ego. This leads to a second brutal truth. Ethical leadership is measured in long-term stability, not short-term emotion. A decision that looks cruel today may prevent a disaster 10 years later. A reform that angers the public now may protect their children in the future. Real leadership demands vision beyond the moment. But most people judge their leaders like they judge entertainment, based on how it makes them feel. Machiavelli rejected this emotional standard. To him, the test of ethics was simple and unforgiving. Did the leader preserve the state and secure the future? Or did he chase applause while the foundation decayed beneath him? This is why sacrifice and unpopular decisions are unavoidable. A leader must sometimes cut away corruption, punish betrayal, break harmful traditions, confront powerful enemies, or impose painful reforms. These actions do not win popularity contests. They do not produce cheers. They often produce outrage. But leadership is not a popularity contest. It is a responsibility. Machiavelli believed that those who demand constant comfort from their leaders are the same people who will scream the loudest when everything collapses. The leader cannot bend to every whim of the public. He must bend to the truth, even when the truth hurts. And truth is the core of Machiavelli's philosophy. The leader's duty is to prioritize reality over idealism. Idealism creates beautiful speeches, inspiring slogans, and empty promises, but reality decides whether a nation lives or dies. A leader who chooses idealism over realism is not noble. He is reckless. He sacrifices the many for the comfort of the few. Machiavelli did not hate morality. He hated delusion. He wanted leaders who could see the world clearly, without filters, without illusions, and without comforting lies. Because you cannot govern a world you refuse to understand. So Machiavelli leaves us with a final, uncomfortable question, one that exposes the soul of leadership itself. If protecting the future required making decisions the public would hate you for today, would you choose to be loved, or would you choose to be responsible? Machiavelli isn't the enemy of ethics, he's the enemy of pretend ethics, and that's the paradox most people never understand. He didn't attack morality. He attacked the shallow performance of morality that collapses the moment reality becomes uncomfortable. Throughout this journey, one truth becomes undeniable. Leadership is not a fantasy built on ideals. It is a battlefield built on consequences. We began with the ethics of survival, the idea that a leader who cannot protect the people has already failed morally. Weakness is not compassion. Weakness is negligence. Then we move to virtue, Machiavelli's real measure of character: competence, courage, intelligence, and adaptability. He believed that it is far more ethical to be strong and effective than to be soft and ineffective. Then came necessary cruelty, the concept that a single hard decision can save more lives than 1,000 soft ones. Not sadism, not brutality, but controlled severity with a purpose. And of course, Machiavelli's rule on appearances. The leader must appear trustworthy, stable, and moral, because perception is the emotional currency that societies run on. Finally, we explored leadership for the greater good, where tough reforms, unpopular decisions, and reality-driven choices protect the long-term future. And here's the philosophical twist. Machiavelli forces us to confront whether being nice makes you ethical, or whether being effective does. You see this tension everywhere. In corporations replacing leaders, in politics during crises, in military strategy, and even in personal life. What feels moral is often not what works. Ethical leadership is not soft. It is disciplined, strategic, and brutally honest. It is responsibility, not comfort. And Machiavelli believed the leader who protects the people, even through difficult methods, is far more ethical than the leader who hides behind moral speeches while the nation falls apart. So now the haunting question remains. Is it better to be loved or to do what is right, even if you are hated for it? If this breakdown challenged your idea of ethics, then you've tasted the heart of Machiavelli. Share this video with someone who still believes leadership is only about kindness. And tell me in the comments, can a leader be ethical without being soft? I want to hear your perspective. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the deep, uncomfortable truths we explore here. Power, psychology, strategy, and the hidden mechanics of human behavior. This is Stoic Strategist. Your journey to real awareness is just beginning.